to blame us, to take our sport and our passion away from us. You know, all these stupid things that you leak to the media about this person's got 300 guns. Well, he's a collector, so of course he's got 300 guns. If you're a collector, you have more than one. That's inherent in the name.
So thanks a lot for agreeing to have this discussion. As we know, currently the firearm industry in Australia, particularly New South Wales, is going through an unprecedented period of uncertainty, mainly because of the new laws which were passed in December of 2025 by the Chris Minns government and aided by the New South Wales Liberals under Kelly Sloan, but
Yes.
that also the federal laws which were also passed by Anthony Albanese. So with that in mind, can you tell us a bit about your business?
Certainly. So I'm Peter from Old West Guns at Cundabung. We're on the mid-north coast of New South Wales, sort of north of Port Macquarie. Most people know Port Macquarie. Great part of the world. Been here on my property here for 27 years, and I've been sort of playing with guns all my life, or since I was 12-year-old and allowed to, I guess, and I've been a collector. So I guess it was sort of started out as a hobby, and now it's a bit more than that. I'm fortunate to own a couple of businesses. I'm also a stock and station agent, so I sell real estate as well. So this is sort of like a second business that I run. I just run it. Oh, no, I didn't turn my phone off, sorry.
No, that's good.
I'll turn it off so it doesn't keep doing that.
No.
So it never stops otherwise.
No.
So this is a second business, but it's an enjoyable one, and it ties in with my other business, which is selling farms basically. So most farmers have got a gun license, and it's a great way to connect with that community as well. You know, most people that manage livestock, you know, they've got pest problems, they've got livestock management problems, they need a firearm. So the two businesses dovetail together pretty well. Like I say, we only open Tuesday and Thursday nights and Saturdays 10 till 3. So we just it's pretty low key, but we deal with a lot of farmers, a lot of hunters. As you can see, I'm a hunter myself, so I've been very fortunate to be able to travel and see the world and do a bit of hunting, and you know, got a lot of contacts too. So a lot of friends want to go here or there, and I can, you know, I had a mate go in Africa and missed out, so I put him in touch with the people I work with, and they looked after him really well. So you know, I've got a lot of contacts around the world. 10, 15 years ago I did Gun Trips USA, so I did tours to America, drove a bus around America, we went hunting, all the gun shows, brought back a heap of guns. So, you know, I brought back hundreds of guns from America, but these new laws, it's got a bit hard. I'm going bear hunting in Canada in 6 weeks, and every animal you see here I've shot with my own lever actions. Well, I'm just not going to take my gun out of the country now because I might get it back in, so I'm going to have to use the guide's bolt action gun to get it done, which I know it's first world problems, but it's pretty disappointing when you invest that, you know. I used to be able to say everything can heal a shot with a lever action, but when I get my black bear, I won't be able to. But I mean, there's a lot worse out of these laws than just that. But that's one of the things, you know. Like I got mates that do international competition, and they're not going to take their guns over now because it's the rigmarole to get back. Yes, you can, but you look at the New South Wales police; they've got Glocks stuck in Austria and can't get their own guns. So it's if the police are stuck with these laws, they're pretty ill fought, you know, and Minns, by his own admission, has no idea about guns, so he should have left it to the big boys that know something about it, or just took some advice. There's consultative committees in place that the police are working with, and they're not talking to them. So, yeah, that's about that.
One thing that a lot of firearm owners, or even the public, are not fully aware of is that you can view dealers like service centers when it comes to administering of the Firearm Act, even the firearm regulations. So,
yes.
For instance, if one family member needs to sell a firearm to another family member, you can't just do it. You have to actually attend to a dealer and let the whole process pan out.
Yes.
So can you comment a bit on some of those activities that you perform?
Certainly. So, yeah, more than just retail selling guns or repairing them or whatever. We store. Some people go overseas and don't want them left at their house for 6 months, so I'll store them as a storage service. If people's licence run out for a day, the police come around and take your guns off you, then we pick them up at the police station and store them because the police haven't got room to store all the guns. You know, I'd have 100 guns down there that people have forgot to renew their licence or didn't get their renewal form, and then they lose it, and it can take 6 or 8 months to get their licence back. So I store that. Also, if there's a deceased estate, we hold the guns until family members get licences and PTAs and that sort of stuff. So we do all that sort of stuff. Plus, I've helped the police in the past several times going in and identifying guns that they're not sure what they are. I've been a collector since I was a kid, so I know particularly Winchesters and our cowboy stuff, but I've got a pretty fair reference library too, so I can look things up and take photos, and with the reference books I've got, we can identify what they are or what sort of action they are and that sort of stuff. So that's one of the things we do, yeah.
So could you give us some insight on what running a firearm dealership would have been a year ago before these firearm laws came into place? What did a normal month of doing business look like?
We were very busy. Obviously, we were open in limited days, so 2 nights and Saturdays, but usually our car park out there's full and it's pretty big. Usually people had to wait, and we were busy not just doing licence training, but transfers and all the other services I've talked about, and just retail, ordering guns in, repairs, that sort of stuff. But since the laws have come in, I think we've dropped about 80% if I look at just cash turnover. I guess that's the easiest gauge for it, is cash turnover. Doing a lot of transfers, husbands transferring to wives so that they get under their caps, getting ready for this cap, which is ridiculous. Only been able to have 4 guns, or 10 if you're a prime producer. For one sport that I do, I need 16 guns for. That's cowboy action. I've got 4 sets of 4 guns, so there's 16 just for that sport. That's without hunting. I'd probably have 20 different hunting rifles I use regularly. So me personally, there's 36 guns I need just for one sport and hunting. That's without, my nana's old gun that I got left, and kids' guns, and guns that were given to me by friends who died. I've got a lot of some of my more collectible guns over there. I can tell you who owned them and the history of them, and I'm fortunate I'm a collector, so as a collector we can still keep them, but for how long? We don't know what the story is there. The crazy bit is that the shooters that have caused all this trouble, or are a reason for all this trouble, they only had 3 guns there on the bridge. So what's a cap of 4 going to do, or 6, or 10 guns if you're a prime producer? It's not going to make any difference. No one's going to take 50 guns somewhere for a shooting. Typically they only use 2 or 3, luckily. So I don't see what the difference is. We're the most regulated members of society. We have to do everything right. We're not going to do the wrong thing. Everything's locked up and secure. So they're attacking the wrong people. Yeah.
When the laws in New South Wales changed, and I think that was December 2025.
Yes.
After that, at what point did you start to notice that things were starting to change for the world, for the worse?
Straight away, my phone lit up over Christmas. That week before Christmas, Mins had to be a hero and make the state safe by bringing these laws, rushing them through before Christmas. Even though nothing's been done, and it won't be done till next Christmas. But anyway, let's not worry about that. He just had an agenda and he rushed it through. And my phone lit up, like my wife noticed, because all it was phone calls over Christmas and right through, people wondering what's going to happen, they thought the police were going to come and kick their door in and take their guns, and they got their great-grandfather's gun and they don't want to lose it. And there was no information from the government, because the government still, end of April, they still don't know what they're doing. I've never seen a more unorganised bunch, both state and federal. I mean, no wonder the country's going backwards. Like, we are just led by fools. There's nothing else I can say about it. I'll say it to your face, Mins and Albanese, communist fools. Like, I don't know how you can draw your pay. Like, they couldn't organise I won't say it, they couldn't run a choco vine over a bush shit house, is an Australian saying. There was another one I was going to say, but I thought it better not. There might be ladies watching, but they just are hopeless. And they don't know what the laws are. They've banned a belt-fed shotgun that was never made. They were told that it was never made, and they've brought in legislation to ban something that was never made. So they may as well ban the tooth fairy, because that's a fairy tale as well. So basically, yeah, all we've seen is worry from customers. I've got customers that used to come here and buy a new gun for their collection every week. What's wrong with that? They're allowed to. And it's the same for us. Like our turnover's dropped by 80%. So I'm sitting on a couple of $1 million of stock and I can't sell it. I've got my own collection, which had, that was part of my own investment strategy, which was good, but now it's not because I can't sell what I own. So they've devalued my own property, they've devalued my business. All done and rushed through before Christmas, so you had to lay staff off or cut them back. You've spent years training up and getting the right people, and then you've got to cut their hours back because it's just dead. Like it's our car park out there's empty most of the time we're open now, whereas it used to be full. We used to have people parked down the road because they couldn't fit in the car park. So, and for us it was a bit of a social hub. Hunters would gather here and talk. We have collectors meetings, so a heap of collectors would get together and we'd do business, have a collectors meeting, whatever. That's not happening, or it's still coming, but they're not buying anything. So. We do a lot as far as, a lot of older people haven't got a computer, so to get a PTA or renew your licence, they can't. So we have to help them do that, so we can't really charge to do that. So we spend hours every week helping people get PTAs, which is part of the service, and we do it. But that's the main thing we're doing now is firearms licences. So I'm getting a lot of new licence holders, which is excellent. And firearms hunting licences for the DPI. But but I would say, to answer your question, just straight up numbers, I'd say we're down 80%, and not many businesses can keep going. Like I've got a big tax bill from last year, and then I've got no money coming in and just money going out. I've got, I would have handed back probably 15,000 in deposits where I'd ordered guns in for people, paid for them, and then they can't have them anymore. Now, that's not my fault, but I've got to give the deposit back, and I'm stuck with the gun, and I can't sell it because no one's allowed to own it, or it hasn't come through yet, but it's going to be. So they're not issuing permits or not letting me process permits for straight pulls or for button releases or things like that. So even pump actions, it's just crazy. So, and the whole thing doesn't make any sense. There's shootings every night in Western Sydney with AK-47s, my big point with the whole thing is how many tons of drugs come into this country every week. I think they can jam a few machine guns in with that drug shipment. They've obviously got machine guns because you hear them shooting there's 3 shootings on the weekend last weekend, and it's the same people that were on the bridge doing it, not being racist, but the same people are doing the same crime.
Middle Eastern crime gangs.
That's it. It's all Middle Eastern crime gangs, and it's not. There's no farmers from the bush. There's no deer hunters out there in camo, out there with their hunting boots and their hunting rifle. I just can't. I can't get my head around it. It's not. It's beyond just taking my guns off me. It's they're trying to say you're all stupid. This is our agenda, and we're pushing it on you, and it's just ridiculous. Like. I don't know how to keep a straight face, The world's gone mad,
In fact, adding to that, in the UK, there was a campaign where I think it was for one of the election cycles when they realized that the politicians there were also equally as bad. So their campaign was simply led by donkeys.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of very good. You just actually go on YouTube in your free time and just go led by donkeys.
Yeah.
You'll laugh. They have a lot of really good videos and it was a proper campaign to show people this is what we have to go through with these politicians.
This is madness.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like the finance minister of the country doesn't know if savings she made were net or gross, and doesn't have any idea of finance, but she's the finance minister, and they're just pissing billions up the wall. 318 million to persecute Ben Roberts-Smith, our greatest hero. Like, I just can't. I can't get my head around it.
This cost of living crisis we're going through, not money for this, no money for that.
My power bill I just got yesterday is $5,500. $5,500 for 3 months. That's $22,000 a year for electricity. That's because we're not burning our coal, we're not burning our uranium. We're buying crap from China if it doesn't work overnight, and then we've got to put diesel and gas in it and charge us a fortune for it. And
and get choked up by the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, that's it. It's crazy.
So can you let us know what has been the direct impact of those laws which were passed in December of last year on your business?
On the business-wise, I said 80% turnover drop, so that makes it hard as far as, I guess, the viability of this business. It's lucky I've got another business to keep my family afloat. But what they don't realise is we're a part of this whole program. If they're going to need people to do transfers or transfer firearms out of their name, like if there's a dealer within 100 kilometres, the police don't have to do it or can't do it, and the police haven't got time to do what they're doing, let alone, it's very poorly thought out, because we need to be here and be viable to be able to store firearms, to be able to service the firearms community. The police stations haven't got the room to hold them, so we need to store firearms for them. And we need to be a link in the chain to do licensing, to help people with, apply for their licence online, because everything's online now, to do their PTAs. A lot of people haven't got a computer themselves, so we help them do that. And just that whole transferring, dealing with deceased firearms, and a lot of people are going to have to move firearms around family members now with this stupid cap that they've put in, to limit someone to 4. It's like telling a golfer he can only have 4 golf clubs, when most of them have got 20, I mean, yeah, you can play the game with one club, but it's not the same, is it? And it's the same for us. So, that's the biggest impact, and just the stress and worry of people, like the calls that I'm still getting from people now. We had a bit of a do here. We had 5 serving politicians here 6 weeks ago, and I think we had about over 900 people, probably over 1,000. There was that many people, we couldn't count them. So people walked in 1.5 kilometres from the highway because they couldn't get their car in here to park. For a little area like Cundabung, there was a lot of people here, and they'd come a long way to see these politicians that we had. And Robert Borsak from the Shooters Party, and our local member Michael Kemp, who's been a big help as well from the Nats. And so we had 4 serving members of Parliament, 2 state, 2 federal, and then Robert Borsak from the upper house in the state as well. So and obviously we haven't got a lot of answers because the government doesn't know themselves. And like I said earlier, they rush this stupid laws through without consultation, without much brains really, and rushed it through to make us safe for Christmas, but it won't be implemented till the following Christmas. And still haven't got regulation, they haven't got agreement from the states, even though Albanese, our weakest leader ever, has tried to bribe the states with $1 billion co-payment on a buyback. How can he buy it back when he didn't own it to start with? It just doesn't make any sense. And if Minns and Albanese had ever worked a day in their life in private enterprise, they know what we're going through. Just because they've been on the government tit their whole life, and they're trying to lead a country, all they're doing is destroying our country. And it's just crazy. And this is just a sign of it. Any business owner out there needs to look. This is COVID 2.0. They shut down our businesses during COVID for stupid ideology, and they're doing the same here. Like, there was no farmers, there was no hunters on that bridge in Bondi. There was one group of people, and they're the same group of people that do 98.5% of the world's terrorism. So they're the ones that should be punished on this, not us. They gave a licence to a family who had someone on a terror watch list in their house. Now, if my son, for instance, who lives here with me on the farm, went to the doctor and his dog died and he was a bit sad, my guns would be taken away because he's living here and he's depressed. Wouldn't it be the same for someone on a terror watch list? It's just, the laws are there. The government has always batted on that, we have the gold standard of world gun laws, and if they're so good, and if you had have followed them, then he wouldn't have had a gun, or he would have got one illegally, because there's plenty of illegal guns in Sydney. And like I said earlier, there's tons of drugs come in every week. You can't tell me guns don't come in with those drugs. So there's no point blaming us or taking or spending billions of dollars. And it's not just $1 billion, it's going to cost $10 billion to try and buy some of our guns back. And to make something illegal doesn't make it unattainable. So why take it off the good people to punish us for what the bad people do? It doesn't make sense.
100% agree. In fact, in the media last week, or is it the week before, when the High Court threw out the the other half of the terror legislation.
Oh, which was terrible legislation.
So,
They
so
were going to force us to have to answer questions. They could
Exactly.
hold us detained without warrant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that article, when they were talking about, the article was actually, I think, titled "Means Constitutional Vandal," because that's how it was titled. And as they're saying, and that was passed as one half of a wedge bill. So if one half is actually thrown out because, as the High Court judge says, it didn't pass the muster, now you have to look at the other bit, which is the firearm bit. And also when you take into consideration that even the opposition, like the Nats, when they were talking in Parliament during that debate on the petition, they were saying that the first time they actually saw the bill that they were going to pass was on that weekend, yet they're going to pass it on the Monday.
That's right. It doesn't work. And there was all mistakes through it. There were spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes. It was just ridiculous.
And that's not only just the New South Wales. Now also look at the circus at the federal level, where at one point there was supposed to be a vest which could hold 100. You know, the vest which they were trying to ban initially. Then they had to throw the vest out. You remember that? Yep. So as a result of the uncertainty in the environment, how have your obligations as a New South Wales business owner, how has that been more challenging for you now?
So far, most of our suppliers have survived. Some have changed hands, or obviously suppliers are going to be impacted as much as us, because obviously they're bringing things in at great expense. The cost of doing business in Australia is one of the most expensive in the world. So trying to run a couple of businesses here, I know it's very hard to deal with our government and their continuous stupid laws, and they're like leeches, you know what I mean? Everywhere you turn, someone else from the government's in your pocket, or it's just crazy. So I feel for our suppliers, because I see a lot of them going broke. At the moment, with the import laws, like the police can't get their own Glocks out of Austria, so how do we go getting parts? And I've got people ordered guns 6 months ago, but now they're sitting, and the importers aren't going to bring them in because of the new import laws. A lot of things we can't supply at the moment, even parts. It's very hard to get and very expensive, and I think it's just going to get harder. So we've got warranty obligations with all the new stuff we sell, and obviously we want to look after our customers or have some sort of after-sale service, but we need to be able to get parts. I see that getting hard, and just to supply firearms to customers. Like we've got Lithgow here, which are very good, and Taipan, but they're going to go to the wayside, I think, because their guns are pump action and straight pull, so the two things they make are banned. So I don't know how they're going to survive. So I just don't know where it's going to end up. For us, we've had to give back all these deposits to customers, but we've not got nothing back from the guns that we ordered in for them. So now I've got $150,000 of guns sitting on my shelf that I can't sell anyone and I can't send back. And thanks, Mins. Good on you, mate. That's a pretty smart business. If you'd ever had a job or run a business, you'd know how hard that makes it. And for any other business person in this country, I just think, what if they do it to you? They did it to us in COVID, they're doing it to us now. I'm convinced that Labor Party hates Australia. They just want to give money to everyone else. I'm not asking for money, but give us a break of some sort. You handed out money to all the cafes in Bondi. I was down there the other week, or down that area, and it was still pretty busy, so I don't think they were hurting. You look at my car park when I'm open, there's no one here and no one's going to buy anything. You've banned the product that I'm selling. It is still a legal product as long as you've got a permit, but your permits that were taken one day now take 90 days. People that want to add a category to their licence, the registry's telling them 180 days to change a category to be able to then buy a gun. That's 6 months. And then after you change your category, it's another 2 or 3 months. So it's like 9 months. So we've got to take a deposit on a firearm, and then people are going to wait 9 months to get their licence changed and their PTA. And I feel sorry for the police and the firearms registry. They're out there busting their butt. They had things running pretty well, and now they've got to go through. Everyone's got to jump through hoops. They've got to manually check everything. Make sure people are under their cap. All the poor people that are over their cap now, they're all stressing what happens to their guns, and which gun did they get rid of? Did they get rid of their grandfather's shotgun that they got when they were a kid, or what? It's just crazy. Or did they have to get rid of the firearm that they shot their first deer with? It's just ludicrous. It just doesn't make sense.
Just to circle back, one thing I just wanted to get some clarity on is you had mentioned, a lot of people don't realize, what's that rule around within a dealer within 100k of a police station?
Yeah, so
what's that rule?
Okay, so basically in a rural area, like if you're out the back of Burke somewhere and there's no dealer within 100 kilometres, then the police do transfers, or the police will, a gun shop will send that police station a gun and they can go and get it. They will act as a dealer for that area. They don't like to, because not that they don't like to, but they're busy. They're supposed to catch bad guys, but now all they're doing is checking safes every 2 years, and all this sort of stuff. Instead of law-abiding firearm owners are the cream of the crop as far as people without a criminal history that are doing the right thing. They'd be better off sending the cops out every 2 years and check on the bad guys than check on us. You know what I mean? I'm not saying we shouldn't be checked, but I thought every 5 years was enough. So now you've got to reapply. So you're not renewing your licence anymore once this comes through. Again, ill thought out law, but you've got to reapply every 2 years. So at the moment, it's taken 6 months to get your licence sometimes. So what happens if you run out? And then all these people are uncertainty, and their licences run out, but then they've got a letter saying they've got an application and they want to buy ammunition and they haven't got a current licence, and it's just messy, and there's no need for it. I think the 5-year system was fine. Just don't give it to foreigners that are on terror watch lists, and we would have been okay, But anyway.
Because one of the other changes that came in place, this is just me thinking, was on the surface it looked justifiable when they were saying, okay, we're going to deny non-citizens, right?
Yeah.
On the surface, it looks justifiable, right?
Yes.
Just on the surface. Because, again, it's language, how you describe something. But when you ask yourself, who is a non-citizen? There are two types of non-citizens. You have your temporary type, who are the students, the backpackers. But then you have your more permanent residents, who are one step away from citizenship. Because the citizenship process is very elaborate.
Yes.
And people are in that permanent resident status for quite a period because they're going through the process.
Yes.
Sometimes it's even up to 4 years, and it's through no fault of their own.
Yeah.
Now, those permanent residents, if people don't realize it, are actually eligible to join the army. Yeah. Even the police commissioner of Victoria is a permanent resident. So the only thing a permanent resident can't do that a citizen can do is vote and be a federal senator.
Yeah.
But everything else, all the jobs, you look at any government jobs, you'll see it's open to citizens and permanent residents. Permanent residents.
So I haven't got a big problem as long as they're not on a terror watch
exactly.
list. Yeah,
that's the key thing.
Yeah, if they're on a terror watch
list. And you know that they're on there, exactly.
That's it. I think that's a big thing. And I'll give you an example. There's a gentleman here, Terry is his name. I'm sure he'll be glad for me to talk about him. He's lived in Australia since 1962. He's a whinging pom, I'll say that. So you'll like that. But great guy. Loves old English shotguns, comes from England. He's taught me a lot about them in our collectors meetings. So he's trying to get citizenship now, where he's never worried about it. He got here in '62, and he's been here ever since and contributed to our country. And he's now got to jump through the hoops of citizenship, and then he's worried about what's going to happen to his guns, or do we have to get him to his son in the meantime until he gets it? That's not fair. But then he's not on a terror watch list, he eats his bacon. You know what I mean? So I think if you just pick and choose who it is, and if they're the right people, haven't got a problem. And I've got friends that are Muslim. I've got no problem. A lot of Muslims guys are hunters. They're good people. But if anyone's associated with these, Islamic extremist churches, gone. Not just, and I'll tell you, there wouldn't be so many here if we weren't feeding them. Why, if you go to a terror church, no more dole. If you're at a rally where they burn the Australian flag, no more payments. Pay your own rent. I got to pay my rent. I don't get any money out of the government. All I do is pay and pay and pay. And no NDIS shop for them. That might be nice too. And if you've got to be, an Australian that's born here to have an NDIS thing, I think that'd be a good thing too. But anyway, we probably can't talk about that, but when you've got 1 in 13 people in Lakemba, statistically Mins, I'm looking at you and Albanese. That's statistically impossible, you fool. $60 billion a year? Come on. Get real, cut it out. And, I just can't believe how stupid they are. I just can't, everyone can look at it. I'm not joking. People think you're joking. It's like
politics, because those
they want votes.
They are a very big, what do you call it, constituent.
Well, I'd love to see how many payments come back from to the Labor Party. I'm calling you out on that, you fellas. You get a lot of support to run your ads and to try and prop up your votes at election time, and I bet a lot of it comes back out of NDIS payments, and everyone that I know would agree with it, so lock me up, but that's what I reckon. It's just crazy. It really is, yeah.
So if nothing changes within the industry and the same circumstances around the lack of consumer confidence, the uncertainty, the lack of government quality information, what do you see happening, in your opinion, over the next 12 months, if everything remains as dire as it is today?
I think a lot of gun dealers will lose their house, or if anyone's not in a good position themselves, I think that there's be a lot of shops closed. Like, you can't keep a business propped up when it's down 80%. There's not that much markup in guns to be able to do that. So a few of the bigger ones are quite wealthy will survive, but in small areas, like I'm in a small area here. I service probably Taree to Coffs Harbour. There are a few other smaller shops around, but I'm probably the biggest in that district. And I get people up from Newcastle and down from Brisbane. So because I specialise in antique Winchesters, and I've got a fair bit of knowledge around that sort of side of things. And I've got a lot of parts and a lot of things sitting here, but it's a big investment that's sitting here and not making me any money at the moment. So from a financial view, if it wasn't a passion project, if it wasn't something that I love doing, you wouldn't do it. Like, I'm sitting here some nights and it's a waste of time opening the shop. I may as well just not open. Where I made pretty good money before, I'm not making it now. So again, it's only a hobby that's turned into something, but it was a pretty good business that I could have probably made a good living off on its own, and now I can't, and I feel I've got friends that have not long started shops and invested a lot of money, and they're really struggling, so I really feel for them. And a government can't just shut your business down like they've done to us. It's just like I said, COVID 2.0, it's just crazy. They can't come in and stop people from wanting to work. They give plenty of money to people that don't work, and the people that do work and are having to go are being punished and punished hard, and they don't realise that they're going to need us to roll out all their stupid law that they're bringing in. They need dealers to be able to do the transfers because they haven't got the facilities to do it. At the moment, I know a lot of police, and I know they're 30 to 50% down on numbers just to do what they're doing. There's a heap of pedophiles in town that aren't watched, but all the shooters, they're going to everyone's house and checking their guns because they have to, which I'm not saying they shouldn't check them, but they should have priorities and maybe keep a bit more on the pedophiles or all the crooks and all the ones that do home invasions every night, the same ones that get let out next day by the judges. Why not deal with crime instead of deal with the most regulated section of society, which are the law-abiding firearms owners? We're not breaking the law, we're not doing the wrong things. So yeah, they should target the right people and instead of taking away from the right people, and it's just not fair and it's not right. I know there's no one in the shooting industry that's a Labor voter, so they probably don't want to suck up to us for votes, and that's all they care about. But I believe if you're going to be a member of Parliament, state or federal, you should have run a business for 10 years. You should have known how to balance a budget, know what it's like to have to sack people Christmas week because the government brings in a stupid law that they rush through before Christmas. It was an act of political bastardry as far as I'm concerned. Rush it through before Christmas because we have to make it safe for Christmas, and then nothing's done with it we're now 5 months out. It's going to be 12 months and there'll be nothing done with it. So, great work, Minge, you rushed it through, but what are you doing with it? And it just does not make sense. I just can't get my head around it.
So if any policymaker or any other politician, or if even Chris Minns or even Anthony Albanese is to watch this,
yep,
what would you like to get across to them? What message would you like to get across?
I'd probably ask the question, why are you doing this? Like, why are you bringing in hundreds of thousands of people that don't fit into our society, that don't abide by our laws to the great extent, people that create 98.5% of the world's terrorism, people that are doing shootings in Western Sydney every night, that are sucking billions of dollars out of our economy through the NDIS, and then all you do is kiss their butt. I don't understand. I'm not a racist in any form. Like, I love everybody. I've got a mate, he says he hates everyone equally. You know, I love everyone. I don't care what colour you are or what religion you believe in. Like, I used to believe in Santa Claus once. Like, if you can believe in whatever you want, I don't care. But when they try and force it on us, like, don't you realise that they want Sharia law, and Sharia law means that we are the infidels and we must be killed. So why would you bring people in that want to kill us? Yeah? I love seeing you Albanese at that mosque there a month or so back. Hey, you'd have to scrape your undies out, buddy. Like, you thought you were going to get done there, and we were all hoping it. But anyway, there wasn't much sucking up there. And hang on, you give them all our tax dollars, you house them, you put them on welfare straight away. You let them protest and burn our flag, and nothing is done, nothing is said. Unions stopped us from protesting, and I did my little protest down there outside Parliament House, and I'm sure some of your minders would have sent that messages that I wrote, that you're a communist, and I hope you know what I think about you. And I would have never voted for you anyway, so you haven't lost a voter, because I really think that you're a communist, and I think you're destroying our country, both state and federally. And I just don't know why you're doing it to us. Like, we had nothing to do with Bondi. I'm too busy. I work 80 hours a week. You wouldn't know what that's like because you've worked the public service all your life. But I work 80 hours most weeks. And when I can, I have a hunt or I play with my guns, whatever. That's my sport. That's my passion. I'll never hurt no one, and I'm never going to. And I just don't understand why you think you're going to punish us and make yourself look good. You fools are the ones that let the wrong people into our country, and they're the ones that are causing all this problem. And I've got friends that are Muslim. A lot of them are good people, but the radical Islamists should not be here. The ISIS brides, they're bred to terrorists. Why would you let them in? Are you a fool? I just can't work it out. And then, and you Albanese, because you're more involved in this, you're also a disgrace for what you've done to Ben Roberts-Smith. And no one I know can reconcile that you have spent $318 million persecuting our greatest hero. You are gutless. And what I would love to see is you two, Mins and Albanese, put in the room with Ben Roberts-Smith and sort it out. I'd love that. I'd pay to watch that, actually, because what you are doing to him as a government, and Channel 9 as well, it's just a disgrace. And it's just not me thinking. Everyone I know a lot of people. I've got a lot of friends up here, and I'm just a small business owner, a family man. I work hard. I pay my taxes, and I don't cause any trouble. And I just hope I can get across to you that if you're watching, and I'm sure your minders will pass this on. I hope they do. The both of you are flogs. I just think that. I don't know how you can draw your wage. You are destroying our country from within. I could spend an hour, I'm happy to tell you what people think, but I think you know. Like, to blame us, to take our sport and our passion away from us, you know, all these stupid things that you leak to the media about this person's got 300 guns, well, he's a collector, so of course he's got 300 guns. If you're a collector, you have more than one. That's inherent in the name. So why persecute us? And that's what you're doing. And I just hope you get this message and realise that what you're doing is crazy. It doesn't make sense. It's not going to fix it. You haven't stopped all the shootings in Western Sydney. You haven't stopped all the milking of you're sending our country broke with NDIS where it's going. I've got no problem with someone that's disabled getting help, but it shouldn't be going to 1 in 13 people that's a provider in Lakemba. Come on, statistically and mathematically it does not work, so it doesn't compute. Can't you see that? Are you that stupid? I know you've never had a real job and you've only been on the government tit your whole lives, the two of you, but have a think about it, and I'm happy to sit down and talk to you. Why don't you actually have minders that don't just, not just yes men that say how good you are. You're obviously on some world agenda that they're trying to, bring in the wrong sort of people and have us taken out. And I'm not being racist in that. I don't care what colour or what religion, I've got no problem. I just sat around the campfire in New Zealand last week with a friend that's a Muslim. He's a great guy, He doesn't like it when I put pork in my sausages, that's fine. I'll make some beef ones for him, It's cool. But I've got no problem with that. I've got no problem with those people in particular. But the ones that are Islamic extremists that just want to kill us, why would you bring them in and why do we have to pay for them? And are the roads up to that? Like, remember the government's like the local council. Potholes, roads, take the rubbish away, have an ambulance and a hospital, bit of health, bit of education. That's what you've got to do. Don't worry about other people from other countries. Let them sort their problems out. And you look after the problems and the people that are here. And what you're doing just does not make sense. And I'm sure I'm echoing a lot of people that I know are saying the same thing to me over and over. And you just need to have a good look at things. Pick up the phone. I'm not hard to find. Give me a call. I'll ever talk to you. I'm happy to give you a few ideas. But I tell you, a work experience kid could run the country better than you are. You know what I mean? You are clueless. Like the energy thing. My power bill just come in last night. $5,500 for 3 months. So Bowen, he's a fool. Okay, I don't know how you could employ him. Like Trump said, how good's Trump at certain things he says, and he's true. Why would we send coal to China? They send us windmills and solar panels, and it makes it cheaper. And then Bowen says, it's going to be cheaper. I'm paying $5,500 a quarter. That's $22,000 a year for power. How is that cheaper? Crazy. It just doesn't make any sense. Look at your finance minister federally. It doesn't know the difference between gross and net. Like, you'd have to sack her and get rid of her. Your government's a mess. And I know all you care about is getting voted back in, and if you don't, then you go to some cushy corporate where you've sucked up to some big company. You all do. It should be banned too, I tell you. But anyway, let's not go into that. But what I'm saying is, well, maybe if you two went to cushy corporates, it might make the world a better place and just get rid of you. But you need to let someone in that can run the country, because you have no idea. You have no business acumen. And to run it, like I said earlier, you should have run a business for 10 years to be able to qualify to be in Parliament. What you're leading is the biggest businesses in the country, and you're running them down, and it's just a disgrace. So I hope you get to see this, and if you want to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to you, and I'm happy to help. I'm not trying to be too hard on you. I'll be nice to you, but I'd love to have a coffee and talk to you. And I just don't understand what your reasoning is. And no one can. And it's not a racist thing, or you've got to see that you want Australia to be a better place when you finish your job, and look at what it's doing. Look at every metric. You're running this country down. You're running this state down, Mins. You just have no idea. I stood down and did that protest outside Parliament House just before Christmas. I thought I was overseas somewhere. There's no Aussies. There was no... and I had a lot of support. A lot of people come past and saw what I was saying and agreed with it, even the ones that you've let into the country. So not all your imports love you, but it just doesn't make sense. Why do you want to destroy your own country from within? I just cannot work it out. All right.